So I have to say, I am becoming a fan of the Fleet Street Fox, purely for the fact that for the past couple of months, she has been absolutely savaging and destroying the hardcore Brexiteers. And I was looking for sort of a good article that would be like, what would happen after after Theresa May's gone, and lo and behold, she goes and writes 5 things that will happen after the Tories dump Theresa May. So Brexit, we were told, was unthinkable, and after Russia, illegal campaign finance and data abuse were to push the country up the gangplank, we were told that it was unsinkable, irreversible, and that those icebergs probably want to be our friends. 3 years on, with Labour locked below decks, Tories fighting over the lifeboats, and Change UK starting to play Nick Clegg's 2012 overture, the cold water is lapping around our ankles, and the captain has rearranged the deck chairs no less than 50 times. The officers have decided that the only option is to throw the captain overboard. This would be a marvellous idea if the reason for the flooding on decks 1 through 94,000 was that Neptune demanded the sacrifice of someone who wants to be perfectly clear. But Neptune is about as imaginary as a technological border solution, which will mean that tossing Theresa into the waves will achieve bugger all. Brexit is still sinking, holed by the variety of punchy, impossible assertions and a fundamental design flaw which treated Northern Ireland like a third-class passenger who didn't matter. This is analogy that you may wish to see Theresa May as either a deck chair that refuses to fold or a priceless blue diamond. Neither options includes an NVQ in plumbing, a qualification that that you should also note is absent from every single potential replacement. It's inevitable that they'll toss her out, and she has, though, because the pointless but emotional satisfying gestures are what Brexit is all about, and what will follow are 5 things that are predicted as bad as Celine Dion's lyric. Number 1, this crap will go on. Once Theresa May is gone, there will be a leadership contest, and if it all goes according to plan, it will produce a leader by September who will then have 1 whole month to unify a divided party, agree a parliamentary deal with Labour, negotiate a fresh withdrawal agreement with Brussels, and put Nigel Farage back in his box. As you can tell, that ain't gonna happen. And no one can do that. A politician created in a lab with the DNA of Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and good Queen Bess couldn't do it. The new PM will ask to extend Brexit once again while considering their next step. The options are just Brexit, which will mean an instant border checks in Northern Ireland, which neither the staff nor the legal right to perform. To agree to a customs union deal with a Labour to enable a sort of Brexit, which will please the voters but destroy both major parties, or balls to Brexit, which the inevitably Brexity PM will never countenance. Northern Ireland demands a customs union. Parliamentary arithmetic demands compromise. And because the PM won't be able to do either of those things, their best hope is for a new leader to bounce in the polls and enable them to call a snap election in which they might, but probably won't be able to get a bigger majority. Number 2, Boris will cock up whatever comes next. The only difference between Chris Grayling and Boris Johnson is that Boris fails on a grander scale. He's not one to quietly ignore the advice from experts and rack up a 50 million bill for ferries that don't exist. The blonde bombshell prefers extravagant lies, the utter destruction of truth, and an extremely misplaced confidence in the God-given right to rule. that hasn't been seen in Westminster since Charles I strutted around in the House of Commons and told it to behave. The first person to declare in a leadership race never wins. Boris has shown his pudgy hand. Replacing Theresa May must bring Remainers with them. Boris is their voodoo doll of choice. Whoever enters Downing Street will need a plan, and Boris has yet to work out what that means. This is a man whose one consistent characteristic over the decades as a journalist and politician has been telling fibs. Brexit has been proven to be unforgiving of those who attempt to polish the turd, and the man who has fudged every option and bodged every resignation and lied to every wife shown himself better at polishing, that no one else has shown himself better than polishing than he is, and the only unknown is how he cocks it up. That's true. So number 3, Jeremy Corbyn will be a step closer to power. If Theresa May falls, it will be because Labour wouldn't help her out. The Tories will be weakened, and the replacement PM will be most likely an entrenched Brexit loon, even less likely to get an improved deal or unite their party. When the PM fails to get the new withdrawal agreement and brings Theresa May's deal and Theresa back to Parliament, then threaten a no-deal exit there's no support for. When they call an election no one wants, when they can win and attract donors but no new voters, Labour should in theory be in a stronger position. It's theoretical because the opposition won't agree on what to oppose. Labour will hemorrhage supporters, but it will still be in a better position than the Tories, which can't even count on the DUP these days, to form a coalition and to catapult Corbyn into the hot seat. Whereupon, of course, he'll have all the same problems as the Tories, except in reverse. Number 4, people will shout, "Oh, get on with it." We voted, they shouted. Respect democracy. Do the hard stuff. I don't want to. Cut my taxes. Raise his. Love nurses. Hate teachers. Who needs librarians? Let's talk about something else for Pete's sake. Voters are divided between people who toddler-like demand Brexit, and they promised that if they were promised if they were good, and those who act like a bored 15-year-old who just loathes Brexit because it resembles an exam they have not revised for. The fact that no parent can keep both these children happy with the exact same thing is why we're in this mess. Expectations are no use, logic is irrelevant, and bribery is only temporary. Every time you hear a voter say, "Just get on with it," imagine a child at the kitchen table demanding a dinner of a parent with no oven, no fridge, and no thumbs. Blame the parent if you want. Kids, in this scenario, you're just going to have to be the grown-up. Number 5, still no Brexit, folks. If you have a PM, perhaps you'll have several. You have waded through thousands of words about David Cameron's diaries, which boiled down to, I didn't do the pig, and it's not my fault. The phrase Brexit uncertainty will become a legitimate excuse for the closure of steel foundries, Liverpool winning the league, and Boris's next relationship breakdown. But you still won't have Brexit, perhaps because it was possible if someone had added a clause to the ballot paper about the United Kingdom exiting from itself as well, but it was always a bit of a reach, a shiny fictional tainted by dodgy dealings and bad behaviour, and a history that couldn't be unwritten. The reason the old lady tosses the rock in the sea at the end of the film is that when she grew up she realised it was just a rock, and the only way out of Brexit is for a country to say it was only an idea, and a bad one at that. When someone tells you that 17.4 million people voted for it, so it must happen, point out that My Heart Will Go On sold more than that, and no one listens to that anymore either. If Brexit was a ship of dreams, then it's time to wake up. A new PM will not solve this nightmare. I completely agree. The only way out of it is you've got to cancel Brexit, because the consequences after Brexit, you can't countenance, you can't do it. You know, it is internationally illegal because of the Good Friday Agreement, which is written into international law, to put a hard border on Northern Ireland. It is, you can't do it. So you cannot do a hard Brexit unless you want the UK government to sanction Northern Ireland as the world's first smuggler state. That's the only reason you can do it. But yeah, we'll have to see. But the leadership contest, you know, will hot up, as I'm sure, and we'll do some reporting on it as more people declare and whatnot. But that's going to be fun. That's definitely content, at least at least right up till September. But we'll see how many candidates put forward at this point.